was, it was a memo came out and it said the following organizations agree to the annual distribution of the city bed tax for the fiscal year 2009, 2020. 2010 is what it's supposed to say. It was misprinted, but sometime at that time they were supposed to have sat down and agreed. Whether it was our board president, the director, I haven't found anybody who set that up. I might be able to go back to the board minutes during that period of time and say, was that agreed upon? I don't know how they divided it among the different entities, where the latest one that Linda showed up there was what we're currently using. We're at 15%, the others, what was it, 22 and a half twice and 20 on another one. But that's come out 4 different times for the entities to sit down and agree. It happened in 2005, 2009, 2012, and then currently we're at the 15%. So one of the things I learned being at a museum is there's a lot of stories, history stories, and I've learned not to repeat some of them because a lot of them are legend. The biggest one we came up with is the silver rock, the globe. That was the reason we were named Globe. Well, that rock came, or that ore came after Globe already had a name. There was a Globe Ledge and some other things, and I was corrected on it. And for years, I've been showing them our fake little rock. It's in the Smithsonian Institute, or Smithsonian in Washington, D.C. There's a picture of it in Donna Anderson's book. But that's a legend. And I watch, unless I find something that's actually documented anymore, particularly the history that's involved in this area, whether it's Pearl Harbor or whether it's some of the other, the Apache Kid or any of those others. I've heard stories, and I've told stories as tourists have come in, and someone else standing behind me and afterwards go, "That's a good story, Vernon, but you need to study a little more about the mining process and how that came about." Or, "That's true, but you had it in the wrong place." So that's why I don't have documentation as to who agreed upon that. It was among the groups, apparently. There was a paper submitted. From that agreement that was originally given to us, we have, without too much modification to it, the one that was given to us about 98, what it says that we do to keep continuing receiving those funds is a renewal. And annually, we sign a renewal paper that states we will follow these guidelines and continue submitting a request for the funds. And I appreciate the fact that that's necessary, because in way back, what was happening was there was a paper, it said invoice on it. It had an amount. It had our operating expenses, basically. It was a demand, basically, or an invoice for money that was generated. And at one time, they were doing it monthly. And at one time, it had a set amount or a cap that we knew what we were going to get every month. So if you have any questions, I'll try to, as I tell the people come in, one of the other docents that are there says, "Come back tomorrow, he'll have a better story or a different one." But I've tried to stay along what I've found. You hear a lot of things about how the bed tax was generated or divided. I don't have any paperwork on that part of it. Those are legends. So, one comment that was made in here was way back when Steve Stratton and I think Minaj had summarized it too, was we are trying, we'll try to help that bed tax and with those entities that are supplying services that provide tourist attraction or reasons for people to come to Globe. But it mentioned that we want to wean those entities off of the public money. And looking at each of those 5 things, over that length of time, we haven't been able to wean ourselves off of it. We wouldn't be able to exist without those funds. There's just nothing in our makeup that we could generate enough money to continue operation, Chamber or downtown or the Center for the Arts or any of them. So it's been a benefit, and I think the city and the taxpayers that are from out of town mainly paying the bed tax have received some benefit. I have seen in the last couple of years more and more repeat visitors to Globe. I've seen more people from the East Valley, that's our market, people from the Tucson area, Florence area. They want to get out of Phoenix and anything to the west of it. So we're growing that. There's a lot of interest why people are here. We've been advertising on Facebook. Someone asked, what can I do from Phoenix in an hour? A couple of people responded back, and I said one of them was, try the road from Superior to Globe. Look at the things that are in between those. If nothing else, we have great food.
There we go.
Any questions or?
Mike?
So Vernon, is the fact that you have to report quarterly or yearly how the monies are spent, is that a problem for your organization?
If you do it all the time, you know what the categories are and everything to fill out the paperwork. Sheldon had filled it out prior to that. Donna had filled it out. Linda Lopez as directors down there. Sheldon's retired from the museum. We're working with Bob Bagando right now as an acting director until we hire a contract, is what the correct word would be, for another director. And Bob Bagando, Bob Tunis, and I did the last report. And after you figure out where to put all the little things in the report, it's not difficult.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Any other questions?
I have questions for Paul. I don't have questions for you, Mr. Perry. Thank you, sir.
Yes.
Try to get my hands wrapped around this subject. We just had an auditor present us with some recommendations to improve our processes, 3 of them. And I'm sure that now that we're aware of those findings, you will work with staff to implement those this year. It's not a reflection on anybody's performance. It's simply the feds always have extra stuff and work to do. I spent a career toadying to their requirements on grants. I guess what I want to say is it's time that we take a review of the entities under the bed tax, working with the volunteers and those bodies that govern those. It's not a special action, it's simply a comment. First, I want to thank all the members of the agencies and boards and commissions of the city that do their work in those specialized areas, all volunteers. We couldn't afford you if we had to pay for these services, to be blunt and honest. And that's why you volunteer, because you want to give something back to the city, and you're doing it. And for all the decades, apparently all the decades of service, I'm grateful for all of that work. I really am. What I see, and recently I went to a Globe Downtown Association meeting because I had to. The boss, the mayor, said I had to do that. So I did. And what I'm noticing in the past few months is it's time for us to tighten up our act. It's time for us to take a review in this particular category of the bed tax and to review with these entities whether or not we need to align in terms of a synergy or simply taking a time out and review what we're all doing together. There's a lot of work being done by these entities. I'm not sure it's always coordinated well, and that's just my personal opinion. I think we can do better at it. Having come back from that forum, we're doing a lot of things that other cities and towns are doing. Some are better at it, and I think we need to set that example and be better at it. And how do we do that? Well, we have a development team now. We have a strategic plan now. I think all we need to do is take a shot at aligning these entities with our strategic plan. It's not that hard of a jump to use that plan as a guideline for the future. And maybe we can enjoy some synergy, enjoy some things that make it easier to work with. That means meetings, and we all have enough of them. But I think we're at a point in time where these agencies, as they did in the beginning, met and decided their future and laid out their plan of improvement and the work that they wanted to do. And I think the city should be always at the forefront of that improvement, because the city is responsible for collecting and distributing these amounts. With that in mind, we need to take time out and review with these entities and have a meeting of the minds. And that means another meeting for you, Mr. Jepson. What I'm trying to say is it's time to improve that process. Let's try to get to some kind of meeting of the minds meeting and coordinate what we're all doing. Some of the entities are doing tremendous things. They're out there doing many different things that are encouraging people to come to Globe. We just need to coordinate it better. And that means a meeting of the minds. I call it the laugh we cry meetings, give and take. I'll do this if you'll do that, or maybe you can help me on this thing. We need to do that again. We need to get back to that beginning where there was a lot of cooperation. I'm not saying there isn't any now. I'm saying we're all going merrily along our way, but there's no guidance behind it. I think the city, once again, needs to take that lead, come to a meeting of the minds. If we have to sit down again and reevaluate what that percentage goes to each entity, maybe that's the goal for next year to look at. But we need to coordinate better so that we can be better in our strategies under our strategic plan and draw in the kind of economy we want to see here. So it's very important to me that we take a look at that this year. You're the expert. You go the way forward and see if we can align with that. And thanking all the people who are our volunteers. We really appreciate their activity and their work on behalf of the city. So that's about all I have, sir.
So, Mr. Vice Mayor, members of council, if Councilman Gonzalez, if the goal is to communicate better with the bed taxes about our strategic plan, what we're trying to do, how they can better meet that, I can see the advantages of that. I can see that, there's probably a good way to do that, and we need to figure out how is the most successful way to do that. Is there any other comments from council on that thought? And is there a majority of council want to move forward with giving direction on that at this point, or where is the rest of council at?
Well, I've been around long enough that we've done this about 4 times. Yeah. But I do think that there is value in the idea of bringing the groups together and kind of looking at where we are as a whole. And because I think when you communicate with each other, you're probably going to come up with some good ideas and maybe obviously I like that component, but I don't feel like it's broken. I don't feel like
I didn't say it was broken. I think if we can just improve ourselves, we're better in the long run.
But I think like a strategic planning amongst them with key components of the city and kind of like what our goal is as a city, I think we could all work together. I think that might be a great idea. So I really like it.
So, and this would be a meeting of all the bed tax representatives